One of the world's most famous atheists, Richard Dawkins, once said, "I'm against religion because it teaches us to be satisfied with not understanding the world." But is that true? Is that what religion, and explicitly Christianity, teaches? That we should be satisfied in not understanding the world that God has made? No, obviously this is untrue. For centuries, theology was termed the queen of the sciences, but for many today, science and faith in the triune God of Scripture are fundamentally opposed. But is this how it should be? Christianity tells us a different story. You see, God has revealed himself in two ways: nature and Scripture, or natural revelation and special revelation. The atheist overemphasizes nature and the things that we can learn from it, but the Christian oftentimes, unfortunately, ignores nature. Now, this was not the case historically. Historically, some of the best scientists, almost all of the scientists, were Christians who were seeking out God in the world that he made. But to completely ignore the natural revelation is foolishness. And unfortunately, that's what many Christians are doing. Nature leads us to worship God. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. Psalm 19:1. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. Proverbs 25:2. So I sat down with my good friend, Dr. Skipper Kagamaster, a physicist, and genuinely one of the smartest people I have ever met, to talk about the harmony of the two revelations of God. So, be a king and search things out. Behold your God in the world that he has made. The Reformed Corner podcast exists to help you proclaim Christ and push back the darkness. Skipper, Dr. Skipper Kagamaster, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
I work at a patent law firm, so I'm now a registered patent agent, as I finally passed my patent bar. I've been dragging my feet on that one. I got my technical training is I have my PhD in physics. My thesis was in the world of heavy ion physics, so this is like particle accelerator.
Okay.
That's what they use, except you're not supposed to call it particle physics because we accelerate nuclei, which are made of multiple particles, so we call it heavy ions. Essentially, we take gold nuclei, take a gold atom, strip all the electrons off of it, and then you get billions of them. You move around tubes, bump into each other, see what comes out.
Wow.
It's actually, it sounds really awesome, but the machinations of it are you're sitting in, a dirty trailer from the 70s on an old government site looking at an old computer screen for 9 hours at a time.
Wow.
So it's far less exotic than it sounds.
Yeah. But it sounds pretty cool.
The stuff that's being investigated is neat. I'll give it that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really the first time that you do a plot of particles. So people think of this as like you take a particle and run it into another particle.
Yeah.
And you see things in like popular science or TV shows, and they'll be like, oh, we have the particle accelerator release a hydrogen ion or release a proton. It's like, no, there's like hundreds of billions of these things, and it takes a whole team working for weeks to get it set up.
Yeah.
So it's all statistics,
Yeah.
And so you have these bunches that cross over each other, and then every time a bunch of like 100 billion and 100 billion cross, you're likely to have one collision.
Okay.
And so then your electronics record that collision. They're all extremely esoteric and specialized.
Mm-hmm.
And you see what pops out. So one of the cool things is that one of the first things you do, and you continue to do this for your QA when you're doing your data, is you identify particles.
Yeah.
And to actually see that, to be like, we can literally see, literally is not the right word. We can literally have registration of like actually kaons, pions, protons, like these sorts of things. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It still blows me away when I see it. It's like super old hat, but it's neat. So anyway, that was what I did for my PhD work.
Okay.
And then now I'm working as a patent engineer. So I work at a law firm that we have high-tech clients, and they come to us with inventions, and you have to have people that are able to parse both the invention, the mathematics of the invention, the electronic setup or whatever it happens to be,
Right.
and can speak English to humans.
Mm-hmm.
That's a skill that a lot of inventors don't have.
Okay.
And so they come to us, but you can't, if you just had lawyers, they would get patents, but the patents wouldn't actually cover the tech.
Right.
It wouldn't be worthwhile. And if the inventors did it, usually what would happen is they would narrow the tech so much that somebody else could design around it really easily.
Okay.
So that's what we're paid to do, is to understand the invention at a pretty deep level and then get coverage for it at a pretty broad level.
Okay.
As much as we can.
Yeah.
But then I took up this semester, I'm teaching at a local university as adjunct physics faculty.
Okay.
So I'm teaching a physics course, intro physics, really weird, doing non-calculus based physics. That's been a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then next semester I'll be able to teach modern physics as well, which will be nice because that gets into like relativity and quantum mechanics, just as like a survey.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it was for apologetics reasons. That's why I got into it.
Right. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the apologetics relating to physics and science, because that's really why I wanted to talk to you, because we're Christians. We believe that Scripture is the special revelation of God,
Mm-hmm.
but that the world around us is the natural revelation of God, that he still speaks in a certain way through nature. So how can we use science and physics to better understand God and better defend the Christian faith?
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs in the sciences, I would say, because you're talking about special versus general revelation, and a long time ago, theology used to be called the queen of the sciences. Mm-hmm. And that was because they understood it to be what you're saying, that these are all revelation. And the Bible's very clear that these are all revelation. That, the heavens speak to the glory of God, that the moon speaks forth from the knowledge of him. Mm-hmm. This is very clear all throughout Scripture. Romans 1, very clear there. And so the what we would call like the fathers of modern science, and really I would just call it science because I don't think it existed in, let's say, the pre-Keplerian era. There were, of course, discoveries and there were people doing science, but it just wasn't as rigorously codified as what we have now. And almost every single father of science to a man was Christian. Mm-hmm. And not, you'll find sometimes is this atheistic contention that they'll say, well, the culture was Christian. Right. So of course they were Christian because the culture was Christian. Yeah, there are some like that you can see were kind of cultural Christians. But most of them were like true believers. Right. Like they would be fundamentalist zealots nowadays. People look at them as like crazy people because they're too Christian. Yeah. You look at like a guy like Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton, the greatest scientist in recorded history. Just put that out there. And that should not be a controversial thing to say. Okay. That's like everyone who's into science should agree. Isaac Newton is the number one scientist that we have recorded. More than Archimedes, in my opinion. Okay. There's a funny story about him. So he was going to the Royal Academy of Sciences, I believe that's where it was. He was going to university. All right. And the bubonic plague kicked off. And they quarantined, and they shut down the university for a couple of years, right when he was going to go there. And he wanted to go there because he had questions that needed answers. He didn't understand why certain things were the way that they were, and he wanted to answer that. Well, he still had these burning questions, so he decided, I'm still going to go get these answers. Yeah. So he worked for like 18 hours a day. I mean, this guy almost killed himself for 2 years. He was well-to-do aristocracy, so like his servants have, stories about how he'd be just shuttered up in his study for entire days. He wouldn't eat for days, this sort of, because he was just feverishly going after this stuff. Got himself sick, all this stuff. And then he emerged with the calculus and the underpinnings of modern physics. I won't say modern physics like relativity, just physics as we know it.
Not the like quantum physics.
Yeah, not like quantum and relativity, but everything else is called Newtonian. And a lot of people have worked on that since, but he emerged with those. And then he was prolific throughout his lifetime, never married. Mm-hmm. He was married to science. So, okay. he and
sounds like a nerd.
Oh yeah, he was a nerd's nerd. But there was one, there was the Bernoulli brothers were contemporary to him as physicists. And they would do things, they thought they were the most brilliant people ever. Like they one or both of them actually had on their tombstone at their request the Archimedes of his time. And he lived at the same time as Isaac Newton. Okay. So it's like...
A little full of himself.
Yeah, a little bit. Do you know any calculus, by the way? Did you ever go through?
No. My math kind of ended in statistics in high school. After that, I was done.
Statistics is so much more worthwhile than calculus for the common person, though. Yeah. Everyone should do statistics. Not everyone should do calculus. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so Newton, giant, right? You know, the Bernoulli. So they would put like challenges out in the papers, calculus challenges, and one of them they thought was very difficult, and it got solved very quickly by an anonymous author, and they knew it was Newton, and
Newton said was the anonymous author.
Yeah,
okay.
And whichever Bernoulli brother had done the challenge had said in Latin this famous phrase. Now, I recognize the lion by his claw. So it's like that's who Isaac Newton was, right? He wrote more, I believe, that this is correct, that he wrote more on the Book of Daniel than he ever wrote on math and physics.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What kinds of things was he writing about?
Oh, he was just really into, eschatology and end time stuff. Probably you'd look at it and be like, this guy's all wrong. And he
probably was not a dispensationalist.
I don't even know. That's the sad thing is I haven't read any of his stuff on it.
What year was he alive?
I think. Jeez, I hope I don't get this wrong. I'm gonna look really bad. I believe can't use my phone, right? I believe it was 1600s.
Okay, well, if it was 1600s, that would have been well before dispensationalism, so he would not have been.
Unless dispensationalism is biblical, in which case
it's not. It's not.
I don't have hard opinions on eschatology. All right, what am I doing here?
So we got I got Bill's Blend. It's kind of like a vanilla. This one is Parsons Blend. Both of these are from the Country Squire. That one's a little more fruity. Right up your alley. Because
no, I like aromatics. So
yeah, we went camping and you had that. Was it like huckleberry or something like that?
It's blackberry.
Blackberry.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
Yeah, I got from St. Augustine. There's this little place there. It was selling questionable smoking products, but they also had pipe tobacco. So.
Yeah, pipes, tobacco pipes, right? Not bongs, tobacco pipes.
Yeah, that's what it should be. I'm not saying that's what they had, but
yeah, this one was actually developed by an Anglican priest who wanted to smoke inside without his wife getting upset about it.
Nice.
So the idea was to make it, smell good.
Man after my own heart. I smoke so seldom, as you know.
Which is so funny because you and my other friend Jake were the guys that really got me into pipe smoking.
It's hilarious because now you're like a pro, and I'm still a noob over here, and I've been doing it for like 20 years.
That's so fun.
But that's like literally over 15 of those years, I probably smoked like 10 times. So the length is there. It's just the frequency is not,
Yeah. I've been smoking probably once a day since I got my first corn cob.
Nice.
Sometimes more. Every now and then I miss a day. And, a lot of people get upset because they think, it's tobacco. It's going to be addictive. And, I don't really help that accusation by smoking a whole bowl every day.
That's called an infrequent pipe smoker, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're the one who told me that the statistics show that smoking a pipe once a day actually, the correlation is an extended life, not shortened.
I'm so glad you said it the way that you did as well.
Because it's a correlation.
Exactly. Some people are like, oh, it proves that. And it's like, no, just people die of mouth cancer that smoke pipes, but the statistics of it are that you should. It's exactly that. It correlates with a longer lifespan.
Yeah.
Infrequent pipe smoking, which is defined as one or less pipes a day.
Yeah. Well, and, Tolkien, one of my favorite authors, he was 6 bowls a day on average, and he died in his 80s.
Yep. That's just, we're
going to go when the Lord takes us.
Well, that is true, but if you take that out to its, logical conclusion, so to speak, it doesn't allow for you to be, licentious with your safety.
Right. Yeah.
So there is that. But I agree with you where it's like, did you saying that as a caveat? It's like I could be like, well, I drive drunk with no seatbelt. It's like, the Lord will take me when he wants to take me. Well, he's probably going to use you as an example for others right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
It's not my lighter. There we go.
Yeah, we don't want to be so over focused on our own safety that we don't ever enjoy the life that God gives us. But we also don't want to be gluttons and indulging in every possible vice or anything like that.
Yeah, you don't want to be flippant with the life the Lord has given you, but at the same time,
you want to enjoy it.
We're not immortal.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to die of something. And so if you get too safety conscious, I know people like that are just health conscious about everything. It's like at some point, you're still going to die. Make a ship.
Yeah, I wish I could. I can't.
You got a church warden, you're supposed to make a ship.
Yeah, all I can do are the rings,
All right.
These are actually looking pretty good today. I mean, usually I've got my air conditioning going, so it kind of messes with that. Sucks the smoke right out into the air conditioning and sends it out. Makes the room smell nice. But,
That's lovely.
yeah, so I think it was, 2 years ago, you gave a presentation on why the Big Bang is not a necessary understanding.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think what I appreciated about it was very technical. As somebody who doesn't really understand the technicalities of it, it was nice to see somebody who does make a presentation that was very specific and not pulling any punches, not trying to dumb everything down. But you basically went over in physics, what is a model, and why the Big Bang Theory is not not really a great model. So can you kind of explain a little bit of why it's not a great model?
Yeah, and just to be a little bit pedantic, the definition that I have of model is not, I wasn't using, and I was trying not to in that talk to use like rigorous scientific definitions for certain things, and most things are disputed, by the way. If you have a book that says, here's what a model is, well, that book might disagree with it.
Yeah.
So the basics of a model, just to have the kind of intuitive understanding of a model, it should be something mathematical that is intended to have predictive value in the real world.
Yeah.
That's what a model should be.
Okay.
In its most basic sense. I had a good friend that used to say, science without math isn't science.
Right.
And it's like, there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
Some of it can just be categorizing. It can be, I'm going to light this like 8 times just so you know.
You're fine. Talking while smoking a pipe's always difficult to keep it lit.
Especially for us noobs, this 20-year noob.
Yeah, it's fine. I like to, keep it slow. That's kind of what I'm trying to do on the channel, is to have interesting conversations with people that aren't in a rush.
Good. That's nice. That's what we're missing. Everything's a soundbite nowadays,
Yeah, we gotta be able to think for more than 90 seconds.
The saying, ignorance may pose a question in 30 seconds that takes wisdom and experience 30 minutes to answer.
Yeah, or 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes if it can't be answered, I don't know if it was ignorance that posed it. Yeah, so when we talk about science, one of the things to consider is what do we mean when we say something is science? When somebody says, you're being unscientific or you're denying the science, right? So we had that whole thing with COVID where Dr. Fauci is the science was the joke, because he said, you're not disagreeing with me, you're disagreeing with science. I was like, what does that even mean? Yeah. Does it mean you're disagreeing with something scientific? You're disagreeing with a scientific study? If I have a study and you disagree with it, are you disagreeing with science? Albert Einstein, when he came up with the general theory of relativity, 100 prominent physicists had signed some petition denouncing him for denouncing the general theory of relativity. And he said, why 100 scientists? If I had been wrong, one would do. And it's like, that is, like, of course you can disagree with things. So the science is about disagreement. So it begs the question, just to back up a little bit, what does it mean for something to be science? This is something I tell my students when we do experimentation. It's difficult to define science. So you're logic based. The difference between like sufficient and necessary conditions.
Yeah.
It's difficult to give sufficient conditionality for science. To be able to say, if you have these things here, it is science. That's difficult to say. It's not as difficult to name a couple of, 3 major necessary components for science. Those being, the first one is falsifiability. If you're not saying something that can be false, that's not science.
Yeah, you gotta be able to test it.
Well, that's the second component, but the first one is falsifiability. This is there's a famous story, which I don't think is apocrypha, of Wolfgang Pauli. He was one of the giants of quantum mechanics, of quantum theory when it was coming around. And he also has, how did the Germans get such cool names, right? Wolfgang. I'm named after a gang of wolves, and it's like, all right, I'd believe whatever he says. I wouldn't mess with that guy.
Yeah. Was it Mozart's middle name was Amadeus?
Yeah.
That's sick.
You know, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. It's like they got cool names. I've named Skipper. I mean, come on. Society has fallen.
Yeah. Dr. Skipper. Dr. Skipper.
Which isn't a thing anymore, by the way. I've looked everywhere for Dr. Skipper.
Yeah.
It was, for anyone who doesn't know, Dr. Skipper was a Dr. Pepper knockoff. I think it was Safeway's.
Okay.
It was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It tasted like carbonated prune juice. It was just awful. And that's why it's not even like, it didn't even have a cult following because it was terrible. Yeah. And so it went away and nobody cares.
We got to find you a can.
Yeah, I've been looking, man. If you find one, let me know. I will buy it. It's like I would just love to have that sit in my office. Dr. Skipper can. That'd be hilarious.
Right.
So Wolfgang Pauli, he's a giant. And so at the time, people would come to him and be like, "Hey, I've got this cockamamie theory. What do you think?" And if he endorses it, now they can go around being like, "Oh, Pauli likes my theory. This thing's got legs." He was also on the autism spectrum.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was good at physics, so what do you want, you know?
Yeah.
I
think you might be yourself.
I mean, if tests are any indication, then yes. I've taken a lot of them and cross-referenced them with control groups that I've set up of friends that I know who aren't and compared our scores. And so, yeah.
Explain like a true autist.
Well, I mean, how else would you do it? But yeah, so he had a tick.
Yeah.
He would not bob his head like this when he was thinking.
Okay.
So people would present stuff to him and he'd just be sitting there. And they'd be like, "Paulie's into my stuff over here." Like, yeah,
he's loving this. Okay.
And then he'd tear them apart when they were done. And his best insult, and he wasn't being insulting, he was being pedantic. His best insult was, "What you have presented is not even wrong." And what he said is, "You haven't even said something definitive enough that it could be wrong."
Yeah.
So if you were wrong, you'd be better than what you are right now.
I wonder if Gordon Ramsay was reading some of his stuff before he goes to the kitchen. Yeah.
You can picture Wolfgang Pauli putting bread on somebody. What are you, idiot sandwich? Yeah. But yeah, so falsifiability is the first thing that something has to be scientifically.
Right.
And now you can say something that's non-falsifiable, and it can be, science adjacent. It can be science-based. It can be within the realm that scientific things exist, but it itself cannot be called scientific. Right. And this, by the way, is a lot of theism too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff about God that is non-falsifiable.
Right.
Which is fine. But then we should say that's not science.
Yeah.
And not that's in the problem. Science is on such a pedestal that I think a lot of people would see that as a denigration to the Almighty, so they're not willing to say that. It's like, no, science is subordinate to the Almighty. Mm-hmm. So there have to be things about the Almighty that are non-scientific.
Right.
Because He's above that. He transcends that.
If you can fully grasp God, if you can fully understand God, well, then I mean, he's not higher than thinking. He's not above our highest thoughts. His ways are not above our ways. So yeah, I think you're right that we need to be able to have a category of the mysterious in our faith.
Absolutely.
The inexplicable.
But it must be definitively so. Mm-hmm. Just because you don't know what something is, ignorance is not mystery.
Right.
And that's the problem a lot of people have. They look at, I'm a creationist, so people looking into creation science, they say, you got to leave room for faith. Mm-hmm. Well, not if you can find an answer,
Right, yeah. If God has done something in the world, and we can see the effects of it, and we can, find the timing of the cause of it, or what exactly it was that he did, appealing to mystery is just an excuse. It's ignorance. And
absolutely,
we don't want to appeal to ignorance. We want to be seeking God in faith through the means that he's given us. So,
absolutely correct. So yeah, something's not falsifiable. It's not science. Falsifiability is a necessary condition. Testability, you had mentioned.
Yeah.
Necessary condition. As a for instance, we talked about the 4 fundamental forces. You remember that?
I don't.
Okay.
Was that today or was that when we were camping?
It was a couple of years ago. Of course, you remember everything that was said.
Steel trap, man.
Do you know any forces?
Like from Star Wars?
Physical forces.
Yeah, not really. Refresh.
You do. You just don't recall that you do. Yeah. How are we staying on the ground right now?
Gravity.
Yeah, force of gravity. That's one of the forces.
Centripetal.
Centripetal is a name for a force, but it's not a fundamental force. It comes from the other forces.
Like sub-force.
Manifestation.
Air Force?
The Space Force.
Space Force?
cough on this smoke, didn't I? Yeah, so forces are they're fundamental forces. Gravity is the force between two massive objects.
Right.
And that exists. And you can have other forces that you could name if you really wanted to, that are consequences of certain setups you can have if gravity is a thing.
Okay.
Like centripetal force, if something is spinning, well, you're going to have centripetal force.
Yeah.
But that's a consequence of a tension that holds things together. If I have, ball on a string or something like that, right? The spring breaks, that force goes away. And now I just have energy.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll have air friction and gravity and all this other stuff. But that's why we do everything in space for intro physics. Because we're like, then I'll just have motion. We'll go to the end of the universe that way at that speed.
Yeah, I remember you did that spring in your presentation. You talked about the spring and the mathematics behind the spring, but you took out from the equation the variables of air resistance.
Yeah, any frictional forces,
Any kind of-
air resistance, depending on which way the spring's going, gravity, internal resistances.
Yeah.
Technically you've got some heat coming out of that as it's moving.
Right.
And that's part of what slows it down. If you take a spring, it won't go forever. But if it weren't for those, it would go forever.
Mhm.
Well, it'd go, should the Lord tarry, it will keep going. And
Yeah.
then when it returns and burns everything up, it'd be gone. So, but physically there's nothing stopping it.
Right. Okay.
So the fundamental forces, so there's electromagnetic force as well. The electromagnetic force is electricity, is what we get from that. Fun fact, there's no such thing as magnetism, but that's another discussion for another time.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna have to explain that another time. My goodness.
It's a fun one. That one, yeah, that tripped me up when I first got it, but it made sense with certain things that always bothered me about magnetism.
Okay.
It's not even a big deal. It's that magnetism does exist, but it's not itself fundamental. It's a manifestation of electricity in light of special relativity.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if you take the relativity away and you model it as a field, it's the magnetic field.
Mhm.
So anyway, electromagnetic force. And then I think I told you this, physicists are the worst people at naming things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in your presentation.
Yeah. So all right. You've got the you got like two protons and they have the electric force.
Right.
Just forget about magnetism for a second, right? If you get those two positive charges close to each other, what are they going to do?
They're going to repel.
Yeah, they're going to repel. Like charges repel, unlike charges attract, right?
Right.
Which we understand the phenomenon, but full disclosure, I don't think we really know why.
Yeah.
You say, well, like charges repel. Why do they repel? Because the electric force. Okay, but why is there an electric? Like you get down to some of these fundamental things, and it's like,
It's because that's the way God made it.
which may be true.
Okay.
It is true that God made it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the right format, right? We can take all these tangents. That's cool.
Yeah, go
all
for
right,
it.
cool. Kepler came up with the laws of orbital mechanics for heavenly bodies. So the fact that if you have one body orbiting another, it orbits in an ellipse, and the object being orbited as one of the foci of the ellipse. This was actually controversial at the time that he did it, because people said, well, the heavens are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
They were taking the Bible and saying, the Bible shows us that the heavens are perfect, and it does not. But that's how a lot of people were interpreting it. So they said that, therefore, this is so funny how people get dogmatic about stuff like this. Since the Bible, I've interpreted it to say the heavens are perfect, and I'm interpreting the heavens to be anything in space that must be perfect. Therefore, orbits must be circles, because now it's not offset.
Yeah.
And it's just a silly thing, because it's like, you can read your Bible all you want, and please do, but you're never going to find that it says planetary orbits must be circles. Like that's not. I don't even. I actually, to throw a bone here to some people, I don't even think the Bible speaks on the shape of the Earth.
Yeah.
There are some passages that can be interpreted as speaking on the shape of the Earth,
Right.
but I think it's a little bit of a stretch.
So what do you say to those people who say that the Bible explicitly and emphatically teaches that the Earth is flat?
It's usually a conversation. So I don't have this is the one thing that I say. By and large, I would say that what I've experienced most is that they're using an inconsistent hermeneutic. So you're taking the premise and you're assuming that's called assuming the proof.
Okay.
So you're saying, well, the Earth is clearly flat, so now let me interpret all these passages in that light. And it's just like people who say, well, the Earth is round, which it is. It is an oblate spheroid, right? There's a lot of proofs for that. We got a pendulum at the university. You look at that pendulum and you say, oh, the world is turning. And if you don't understand that, take some calculus. And I'm not saying that flippantly either, like, oh, if you only got the math. I'm saying if you really seriously think that this is a multi-thousand-year conspiracy that no one's broken ranks on, and I've cracked the code. Okay, go spend 5 years learning some math.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like a really small investment to make.
Right.
But I don't see anyone doing that. I've seen several creationist physicists. I have yet to see a flat Earth physicist.
Interesting.
Never seen it. I know maybe they exist somewhere, but I've never seen it.
And you think that that's likely the case because the math just does not support the idea that the Earth is flat?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when you start understanding some of the math and then some of the logistics that go into things like the space program and these sorts of things, it becomes like your Occam's razor, right? It becomes something where the cleanest solution, the solution with the least problems, is that the Earth is actually round.
Okay.
That's been my experience. That's what I think. But I'm not alone in that. But
so when are you cashing your checks from the Illuminati?
Oh no, it's direct deposit. You don't have to
got
to cash them anymore. They run all the banks. So yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, they just won't give me Bitcoin. I keep asking.
Fake.
But can you give me Doge or something? Yeah.
Then you want apparently use fart coin.
Oh, the world is a nightmare. That's what's running our economy. Oh my goodness. So yeah, what was I talking about? Keplerian orbits. Thought they were perfect. They were not.
Yeah.
Now one could say, at the time, and probably many people did, why do all heavenly bodies follow these laws? They follow these laws that they orbit in an ellipse with the object being orbited at one of the foci. They sweep out equal area in equal time. So if I take, I've got the sun and the earth, and if the earth orbits this much, I can make like a pizza slice there, right? But over here, it's closer to the sun. Obviously, very exaggerated. It's very nearly a circle. It's closer to the sun, so in an equal amount of time, it travels a more of an arc, possibly, right?
Right.
But then there's a larger slice of area. But it equals this area. So like not larger, so there's a larger angle for the area. This is a smaller angle, but the area of both is the same in equal amounts of time.
Right.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And you could look at that, and this is the danger, just to go to what you were saying, and I'm not saying you're being dangerous with this, but I agree that things get down to a point where, at base, it's because that's how God set it up. But there's also, you could have said that for the Keplerian orbit laws. And then Isaac Newton comes around and proves them mathematically that they're because of this phenomenon called gravity.
Yeah.
So now you could say, well, gravity is a fundamental force, therefore gravity is the way that God set it up, and you're not ever going to be able to investigate that and see why gravity is gravity. So if we go back to these two protons pushing each other away, well, they put the positive charges repel because, like, I'm not comfortable saying positive charges repel because God.
Yeah.
Any more than I'm comfortable saying God is sovereign. So yes, that is true, but it makes me curious. Like, maybe there's something more fundamental behind that we could find.
Okay, so you're saying that the repelling of like forces is not necessarily a fundamental. There could be something below that that's causing that.
Yes.
Okay.
And that has been the story of everything. Like, if you look at a cell, if you're old enough, you were told, and people still say it because it's stupid, but they still say it, cells are the building blocks of life. I was like, no, they're not. If you looked inside a cell, it's insanely complicated.
Because mitochondria is the powerhouse
of the cell. That's right.
There you go.
These are the things we remember. The mitochondria, I mean, that one's pretty true. But and it's biology.
That is the only thing I actually remember from my high school biology.
And then you remember if it's an organ on a test, it's the liver. That's what I remember. I was taking this AP bio a long time ago, and
of course you were AP.
Yeah, well, I should have failed high school. So to tell you my history on that. I very nearly failed my senior year of high school, and I should have. By rights, they should have failed me. And then I subsequently went on to be at a community college after that, and I was on academic probation right out of the gate. Yeah. So I've had a storied past with academia. I figured it out by the time I went back for physics. So.
Yeah.
So I started off in biochem, and then I just kind of, what was the English phrase that I love? I faffed about.
Yeah.
It's a great phrase, right? I think that's one that we can put into our American lexicon.
Yeah, faff.
Yep. It's just faffing about,
Yeah.
It seems like I'd show up.
say waffling.
Oh, that's a good one too.
That's simple.
Yeah. That's what all of those things describe my first run in college. Like I'd show up to class that I hadn't been to in forever. This is before online classes or anything. And everyone looks really serious. I'm like, well, what are we doing? What is everyone, sitting 2 seats apart like it's the midterm today?
Yeah.
Oh, I have yet to open the book. Like that was my initial, that's a good one.
That wasn't even on purpose.
Look at that. Wow, that's persistent. You should have shot some smoke through that.
Sometimes it just happens, you know?
God's sovereignty, he gave you a perfect O. I blew an O once. It was glorious. It wasn't very good.
Yeah.
I did it one time.
Well, I remember when we were just camping the other week, I showed you how to blow it out through your nose.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of interesting little tricks you can do with the pipe smoke.
Yes, there are.
So, let's go back to the model of the Big Bang and why it doesn't work and why it's not a necessary thing for us to believe as rational human beings.
So yeah, I'll go more quickly on that.
Okay.
So science, falsifiable, testable, reproducible.
Right.
Those are the three. And I can talk about all 3 of those for some time because they're really fun. But Big Bang doesn't satisfy those things.
Okay. And why do you say that?
Yeah, that's my second biggest qualm with it. My biggest qualm with it is some biblical. My second biggest qualm is that. I gotta smoke some.
Yeah.
The Big Bang goes in these things called epochs, and there are periods of time where particular physics dominates.
Yeah.
So if you have hot, dense matter, quark-gluon plasma, heat and density level matter,
Right.
physics is different.
Yeah.
If you're a fish, you experience the world differently than we do. Gravity is balanced with buoyancy, and if Newton had been a fish, he may not have ever discovered gravity.
Right.
Because it doesn't live in that.
Right.
So that's what these epochs are. There's certain physical conditionality that the universe operates under predominantly.
All right.
And the beginning epochs, we're going back to 4 fundamental forces. All right, so I can do all, but I'm going to try to précis some of this stuff. We're talking about the interesting portions. So we also have, protons should be shot apart. They actually stick close together, and this is where physicists are idiots. There must be a really strong force holding these together. So let's call it the strong force.
The strong force.
Like,
okay.
Really? And then anything particle that says on is what the particle, it means a particle. It's a proton, neutron, electron, ion even, right? And then the thing before it is what the particle is about. So pro, positive, right? Electron was for electricity. They'd probably call it a negatron. No, which actually is cooler than electron. That would actually sounds like a transformer, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the strong force is mediated by a particle, and it must be very sticky. So they call it a gluon.
Great.
It's so dumb. It's so embarrassing that it's like you named a particle after glue because it's sticky. Come on, guys. But it sounds cool when you're like, oh, gluons and quarks, and it's like, oh, that sounds exotic. And it's like, no, just gluey. It's sticky.
Yeah.
Quark is cool because physicists didn't come up with it. Some writer came up with that.
Okay.
But in any case, strong force, and then there's a weaker nuclear force. Guess what they call that?
The weak force.
Yes.
All right. Got it.
Weak force.
I'm following.
So you have these fundamental forces, and that's how everything is. And so right now, and I'm getting to the Big Bang, I swear, they're distinct.
Yeah.
But at high enough energies, some of the forces unify, particularly the electromagnetic and the weak, and it's called the electroweak force.
Okay.
And by the way, gravity's a wild card because the strong, the weak, and the electromagnetic forces have all been what's called quantized. We have a quantum theory for all of them. There's no quantum theory for gravity, and people have been barking up that tree for 100 years.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. And some prominent physicists, notably Freeman Dyson, have said that there's no reason to believe we can quantize the force of gravity. The fact that some of the smartest minds in the world have been working for nigh a century on this and they haven't been able to do it, he might be right.
Yeah.
So, backdrop. That's what we know. That's science. You can test it. It says falsifiable things. Gravity, the potential drops off as 1 over distance. You can test that.
Yeah.
People say like, oh, gravity is just electromagnetism or something. And why don't you test it? Go get to a mountaintop and then go to Death Valley and get a very finely tuned gravitational experiment that you've made yourself and test it.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, I will have less patience on your thoughts on gravity.
Right.
When you're saying, oh, it's all fake. Did you test it? You know, like that's, so you can test these things. They're falsifiable. And then these tests have been repeated time and time and time again over hundreds of years.
Right.
Well, for the nuclear forces over, tens of years, over several decades.
Right.
Good science. The Big Bang requires certain things in these epochs. So one of their epochs is going to be the electroweak epoch. And it's like, this is when, if you go to a high enough energy, the electric force, electromagnetic, and the weak force become indistinguishable. Which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a falsifiable thing. And it has been tested.
Yeah.
And it has been reproduced. Good science. Okay, now here's the thing that's not scientific, but it's science-based. What if we have what's called a grand unified theory? Grand unified theory is to say, what if we go to even higher energy, and now the strong force couples with the electroweak force, and they become an indistinguishable force at very high energy. And when we go to even higher energy, like when the Big Bang happened, that's the theory of it, right? And then gravity becomes coupled as well, and we have a theory of everything.
Yeah.
Now, it's neat to think about, and I'm not being pejorative when I say that. It really is. This is the type of stuff scientists should be thinking about. We do not have a grand unified theory, nothing close. There have been a lot of candidates, every single one of them has fallen.
Okay.
So as I speak these words, there are pending candidates, but they're under investigation, and they might work, they might not. I'm not against a grand unified theory or a theory of everything, by the way. I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
But the Big Bang has epochs which a priori assume these things are true, and then there's no actual physics behind them.
Right.
There is physics, people have made equations, but they're not a testable thing right now. So they could say, well, maybe a grand unified theory works like this, so they have this grand unification epoch in the Big Bang that's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a place where the strong force is indistinguishable from the electroweak force. Okay, but we don't know if that's even true.
Right.
It does. It's like when the EPA says all of your vehicles must reach this particular mile per gallon rating. You have to have this particular fuel economy, and you can do it without sacrificing power or drivability or expense. Or at some point, you might not. It may not be physically possible.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but you can't demand that something is physically possible. Could we get a 600 horsepower gasoline powered truck that has 100 miles per gallon around town? Like, probably not.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I certainly wouldn't say yes, because we've been increasing the mile per gallon and the power, and so therefore, yes, it will happen 100%. It's going to happen. I'm going to bank on it, and I'm going to deny God because of some of those implications. That's what you're doing with the Big Bang when you say, I believe the Big Bang because of the evidence. Because there are several of these epochs, like Grand Unified Epoch, where it's necessary for the Big Bang, but it is completely unproven. And I'll say completely because we do not have a Grand Unified theory. There's the Planck Epoch, which is right in the beginning. The Planck Epoch is a theory of everything. It requires all the forces are unified. And we're nowhere near that.
Yeah.
Like that's not even, I don't think that's even a millennium problem. That's like you would be the second Isaac Newton if you came up with something like that. You know?
Okay.
It's that level. So saying, well, we need that level, but we're just going to assume it's true. We're just going to assume it exists and it's right. And we don't know how the physics works there. I mean, there's a lot of ideas. So I'm not trying to be pejorative to physicists who are working on this. It's like
Right.
a lot of really brilliant ideas.
They're smart people.
Yeah. But these ideas have not been, and proven is a dirty word. I'm using it in a kind of common parlance sense. It has not been something that has been rigorously tested, debated, repeated, these sorts of things, right? For either the Planck epoch or the Grand Unified Epoch. Those just don't exist. And so assuming that they do is a faith-based assumption at base. And I think I love science, I don't have faith in it.
Right.
I don't even have faith in the process, right? Faith, hope, and love. And one of them perseveres, and it's love, right? Because your faith will be your eyes. You don't have faith anymore. When we're glorified, we don't have faith anymore.
Right.
Because it's unnecessary.
We see it, yeah.
Exactly. And so science, you should not have faith in science.
Yeah. So when Fauci is saying trust the science,
Yeah.
he's demanding some kind of religious allegiance from it.
Exactly. Greg Koukl makes this point, not with Fauci, but he makes this point with faith and trust. He says faith is probably, in our modern parlance, is a poor translation. And the translation should be trust. Take every time you read your Bible where it says faith and put trust in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more what the text is generally meaning.
Yeah.
Right? So if you say trust the science in common parlance to go towards biblical terminology, you're saying have faith in, and it's not even the science, because we've talked about what science is. They mean the body scientific.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are scientists.
Yeah.
They're saying you need to have a religious faith in scientists.
Yeah, it's just idolatry.
Yeah, and by the way, which is the first most terrible thing that it is, right? But not far behind is it's unscientific, fundamentally.
Right.
We don't live under the Aristotelian worldview anymore because people did not have faith in the scientists. Doesn't mean they think they're liars. Like, you find this in creationist circles a lot, where people be like, oh, therefore, all scientists are liars and charlatans and frauds and all this sort of thing. It's like, no, deception is a real thing.
Yeah.
People are allowed to be wrong. So there are people that they're just wrong.
Yeah. It's not an intentional lie. It's just incorrect.
Now, some people may be. Don't mean to say that can't happen. But my experience is, by and large, these people are ardent believers in what they believe in. Now, there's a huge backdrop bias to that.
Yeah.
So when I was doing my thesis work, one thing that I was using a detector to measure something that a different detector was always used for.
Yeah.
And we had this different detector was used to measure two things. And so you get the autocorrelation problem, where you might be chasing fluctuations in one thing, your second measurement's what you're after, but it may be based on your first measurement, not on actual physical stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So what you try to do is divorce that into multiple detectors.
Yeah.
Let me detect thing one over here, and the fluctuations in this zone should be different than the fluctuations in this zone for those sorts of things. And so I shouldn't be chasing my tail when I do this, right?
Right.
So the first thing I had to do was, well, I want to make this measurement with this detector. I need to first make the measurement with the detector like everyone else did.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with the group that was doing that. They thought they had a really cool thing that they were studying, so they very begrudgingly worked with me. And it's like, dude, I'm not after a Nobel. I'm not doing anything that interesting. I really wasn't. My thesis, if you ever want to, sleep well, just start reading my thesis. They're not that interesting. The science is cool and stuff, but I was a cog in a machine,
I might have taken you up on that, because it's been hard to sleep lately.
It'll do it for you. But anyway, I was redoing this measurement that they were doing. I didn't want to step on their toes. I just wanted to redo the measurement.
Yeah.
One interesting thing that I found out was, well, first off, I was vetting the code, and when you do that, it's like, oh, my measurements all over the place because it's all data science, and yes, you have to work on your code and make sure it works. But I could never get my stuff to match what this other guy had previously produced, and that's reproducibility, right?
Right.
I couldn't. He had everything written up. I was in their groups when they'd have their group discussions on this, because they had a really big group on exactly how they did the presentation. Here's the data we use. Here's the quality assurance, parameters. All this stuff.
Yeah.
My point should have lied right on top of his.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Never happened. I got to the point where I'm like, can I just see your code? And I used his code and still couldn't reproduce his results.
Right.
And at some point, I don't know how it came up, but he was like, oh, yeah, we said we used this whole data set. We used half of that data set. Because the other half of the data set kept giving us weird results. Mm-hmm. So we didn't use that.
Interesting.
Bias.
Yeah.
There's a bias inherent, and this person did not think, I am committing scientific fraud, which they technically were.
Even if it's not intentional, it still is. Yeah.
Because all they had to say was, we get spurious results with the data after this particular run.
Yeah.
So we used everything before. That's it. One little line there and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're not committing fraud.
Yeah.
So I think, coming back, so many smart scientists that aren't liars that believe these things, a lot of it, I believe, is there's this implicit bias that they don't even know that they have, where they love evil and they hate God.
Right.
And that motivates them, because if you say the Big Bang isn't real, I will tell you, I firmly believe if someone comes up with another physical theory for origins that is not the Big Bang, that fits the data that we have, and that is completely physical, natural, people will drop the Big Bang like a bad habit and go to that theory.
Right. Because, ultimately, it seems like a lot of what their mission is to disprove Scripture's attestation to the reality of God.
Even if they don't know that's what their mission is, because the devil knows his mission.
Yeah.
And Jesus makes it clear, excuse me, this is a binary. You're either servants of my Father or servants of Satan. That's it. You don't get to be an independent adjudicator or a conscientious objector or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So if they hate God, they serve the devil.
Right.
Straight up. He's smarter than us. He's smarter than them.
Yeah.
He's smarter than Isaac Newton. We're all finite idiots compared to Satan.
Right. And it is very much that whole Romans 1. They're suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. They don't love the truth. They love the idea that they aren't going to be held accountable by a supreme judge.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there is no God, they don't have to answer for their sins.
All things are permissible because we're just animals.
Yeah.
That's where evolution comes in, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Richard Dawkins even said at one point that there isn't really any evil. That evil is not a real thing.
You have to say that if you're him.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately,
be consistent.
Yeah. Like the early church fathers said something similar, but what they meant is that evil is the corruption of good. It is not itself a substance.
Yeah, it's like light versus dark. That argument. Yeah.
But in modern parlance, evil does exist just as, something that should be hated, something that is contrary to good. And when Richard Dawkins says there is no such thing as evil, he's also saying there's no such thing as good.
That's true. Because if you have good, you have to have evil, because it wouldn't be defined by anything else. Otherwise, it'd just be normal.
Right. And Jesus says that only God is good. And so by denying the existence of good, he's also denying the existence of God.
Mm-hmm.
And
justifying any evil that you want to.
Yeah, and it just shows his hand that this is what his point is, and he's made that pretty clear in all of his books, trying to disprove the existence of God. I have a question about string theory.
I'm very light on that, but I'll try to answer what.
Can you explain it in in 5?
Yes, since I don't have great understanding, I totally do that.
Okay.
So particles, and I'm not talking about strings. Particles, what you're doing is you're saying, let me take something and I'm going to bring it down to a sphere or a point.
Yeah.
So I can deal with it more simply. But also because you'd say, well, if everything is something smaller and smaller and smaller, I should be able to deal with it as this collection of particles, very small points. Broad strokes, string theory is basically saying that, but saying, let's go to these one-dimensional objects called springs, and then strings, and then there are two-dimensional objects that you can use called brains. And you can take these things and, not like a brain, like membrane.
Right.
Then you can build things out of these. And it's I think it's, that type of thinking is predicated on how we came to like quantum mechanics, where we say when we get down to something small enough, now we have to use quantum and non-Newtonian mechanics. But if you build everything out of that, if you make big things out of little things, the math of the little things leads to the math of the big things.
Okay.
So string theory is doing the same thing, just going down even more.
Okay.
Saying, okay, what if we get even more fundamental?
Yeah.
And now we can say it's these, strings and brains, and we can build a mathematics in that world. And then what we have in our real world is almost a projection of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a globe over there.
Right. It's not flat.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
And it's semi-accurate. And full of alcohol, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I got scotch and gin in there.
Nice. Which, I was telling you, I don't generally drink. I'm not anti-alcohol because, I don't want to blaspheme. Yeah. Lord made water into wine, and it was wine. And if I say alcohol is evil, I say that Jesus was the author of at least one evil, and I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I'll have a glass of wine maybe once a year at like our firm Christmas party or something like that.
Right.
But I would love to have an old globe like that full of like Mexican Cokes or something. That would be amazing.
Sweet.
But anyway, so you take a globe. A globe is a three-dimensional object.
Right.
But you can do 3D math and project it onto the 2D surface of the sphere.
Yeah.
And then you get a physics out of that matches what we see in our world. It's one of the things where I'm like, take calculus if you think the world's flat. Because you'll get like the Coriolis force. You know what the Coriolis force is? It's something spin.
Okay.
So like air and water spins. And if you have a pendulum, one of the cool things, if you have a pendulum, it's swinging like this, right? I put energy in it when I lift up that pendulum and let it go. It has energy in this direction only. There's no energy in this direction.
Okay.
Right? So it can't move in this direction unless a force acts on it. And that's for the whole universe. It has energy in this direction, not relative to the Earth, this direction.
Okay.
So with what's called a Foucault pendulum, you've ever been to university science department, they always have this big giant pendulum.
Yeah.
That's why they have it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have one big enough, what you measure is the thing moves, and throughout the day it goes like this.
Yeah.
That's because the Earth is rotating underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And because of John 1:3, the energy in one direction cannot go another direction because we are not allowed to create energy.
Okay.
Well,
so why do you say
we're not allowed to create momentum.
Okay.
You can exchange mass and energy, but you know what I'm saying? We're not allowed to create.
Yeah.
So if there's energy in this direction, if there's momentum in this direction, it can't spontaneously go in this direction, or we've generated momentum in a direction where it did not previously exist.
Okay.
We've now created something.
Right.
So as the pendulum turns, something must be happening that conserves forces. And that's the Earth spinning underneath it.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. So that's a projection. You're projecting the 3D world onto a 2D world. The 3D world is more fundamental, but we live on this 2D surface. And so our physics works on this 2D surface.
Okay.
Strings work the same sort of way. I believe they're 13-dimensional is the mathematics they use, somewhere around there. And now you can project that onto 4 space, which is where we live. 3 spatial axes and 1 temporal axis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's trying to find something more fundamental by going up in dimensionality. It's called holography.
Yeah.
You go up in dimensionality and project it. It's just like we project 3D onto a 2D surface of a globe. You could say, well, are there things that pop out of string theory that in 13 dimensions are kind of just part of how 13 dimensions works? But if we project it onto 4 space, it's like, oh, the charge of the electron has to be exactly this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what it's trying to find. It hasn't.
Okay.
So that's the other funny thing about string theory. In like 60 years or something like that, we haven't really net anything for our trouble.
Yeah.
It looks to be a good formalism, meaning like this is a nice way to do the math. From what I understand, like I said, I'm no string theorist. But its predictive value has been very poor.
Okay.
And that should be something falsifiability. That means you're making predictions. And so string theory will recover the physics that we already know, but you have to add in a lot of parameters from outside that we know from things like experiment or from other theories that we've used.
Okay.
So calling it string theory, I think might even be a misnomer nowadays. It might, like, string formalism might be better.
Okay.
But I'll probably offend some string theorists saying that. And they'll be like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'll be like, yeah, I kind of don't. Theory.
Yeah.
But it's been my impression and experience of it from what I've seen.
All right. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know what I'm talking about. Your light understanding of it is miles ahead of anything that I would even be able
you don't work in that realm, so why should you? You know?
Yeah, that is not my field, but I appreciate learning a little bit about it. It's interesting stuff. So, you know, when we delve into the sciences, why do you think that it necessarily proves? Well, it doesn't, like you said, proof is a dirty word. Why do you think a logical conclusion from the data that we're getting in science and the study of the sciences, why do you think it's a logical conclusion that God exists? Or why does, you know, something like math, I know you love math, you're wearing math shirt.
Oh yeah, I got Maxwell on today.
Yeah, and God said, whatever this equation was, and
the equations of electromagnetism. If you do some certain things on here, it proves that light is a wave.
Right.
And I do mean prove because you can do a mathematical proof.
Fair.
But then that means you're a priori taking this as true.
Yeah. So why do you think then, using the common understanding of the word proof, why do you think math and science proves God?
I think logic points to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use that phraseology, points to.
Okay, and I think that's probably a better way to put it. And that's good too, because logic comes from the Greek logos, which is word. That's what it says in John 1 in the beginning.
Which is an amazing thing about God, right? Like you look at other creation myths, and almost all of them, you know, you have like Kronos, the Greeks, or whatever.
Right.
They're taking existing substance and making order from chaos.
Yeah.
That's usually I don't know all the creation myths, but that's usually the creation myths or something like that. Ours is different.
Yeah.
God does form. We do have that. Forms Adam from the dust of the earth, you know, forms Eve from the rib of man, right?
Right.
But by and large, how does God create?
Right.
He speaks information.
Yeah.
It's the word, and that is very interesting. And that is very unique.
All of it is ex nihilo. He doesn't require existing matter.
And we talked about this before. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
It says in the Bible, I love how it phrases it, and it was so. He said, let there be, and it was so. The physical laws. So, I want to answer your question. All right.
You're good.
The physical laws are one of the best comportments with the Almighty. I won't say proof again because it's the other way around, right?
Right.
Everything's predicated on God, so we can't say we prove God. But so God's not scientific because he's hyper scientific, right?
Yeah, he's above it.
But our science should comport with God,
Right.
right? So I don't like when people say, and I'm not calling you out on this at all, but when people say to try to dumb it down for the layperson, science proves God.
Sure.
It's as dumb as saying science disproves God.
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't. That is beyond the power of science to do. You can say, if God, expectations, I can find these.
Yeah.
So do I have things that comport with God?
Mm-hmm.
And now someone could go so far as to say, well, this is a necessary condition for God to exist. So it doesn't prove he exists, but it's necessary, right? It's on the other side of that logical equation. And we've disproven this condition.
Yeah.
Therefore, no God, because that is logical.
Mm-hmm.
If I say, if science, then falsifiable. You know a contrapositive in logic?
No.
Okay, so if you make a logical statement, a true statement is saying, if this, then this.
Sure.
Right? And so sometimes people want to flip those. So if science, then falsifiable. Therefore, falsifiable, then science.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't do that. That's like saying, if you're in Nampa, you are in Idaho.
Right.
True. You flip that, if you're in Idaho, you're in Nampa. Absurd.
Yeah.
But if you flip them and negate them, now it becomes as true as the original statement.
Yeah.
If you are not in Idaho, you are not in Nampa.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like if you're a square, or if you're a square, then you're a rectangle. But if you're a rectangle, you're not necessarily a square.
But if you're not a rectangle, you are not a square.
Correct.
So that's how contrapositives work.
Okay. Thanks.
So we can always flip logic with certain things. So you're saying if I have a necessary condition, if God, then this necessary condition.
Mm-hmm.
And people do this all the time, right?
Yeah.
If Christianity is true, then Christians are going to be non-hypocrites.
Right.
And then let me contrapositive. Christians are hypocrites, therefore God is not true.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, your problem was your first statement was wrong.
Right.
It's incorrect. Your second statement is as correct as your original statement, which was incorrect. You know, so all of which to say, we should be able to have some things that are scientific, that are science proper, that we can test, that have to do with, is there a God or is everything random? And so I won't say, you know, obviously mathematics proves God, but you get to ask yourself, if there's a God. So let's pull ourselves into this hypothetical world now where we're just playing with ideas, right? It's not blasphemous to say if there was a God, there are certain things that I would expect as long as you hold it loosely, right?
Sure.
If there is a God, and if the Bible is true, and God is God of order and not of chaos, what do you expect about mathematics? You expect it to be, you expect it to exist. You expect logic to lead to certain, because that's all math is. Math is symbolic logic.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. And so you expect that you can follow that logic and make rules with it and find, so to speak, truths with it. It should be consistent. It should be reliable. It should be predictable. Right? And math is all of those things. Math is logic codified, right? It doesn't have to be. There's a reason that we say Newton discovered the calculus. And Gottfried Leibniz, by the way, also huge Christian in Germany, concurrently with Newton and been proven in a vacuum, also discovered the calculus at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, but he didn't do a lot of the other stuff that Newton did. So Leibniz is an amazing guy. They had a little feud for a bit, but I think they respect each other.
Okay.
And his notation is better, by the way. So, but we say they discovered it.
Yeah.
And there's something too. Why did they were making up math.
Yeah.
Right? Why is their math the same? That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
They should be able to do whatever they want. And Leibniz should have an amazingly different calculus than Newton did. But they're pretty much exactly the same. They just use different notation. Why? Why is that? It's because there was something fundamental that they were discovering.
Yeah.
They had uncovered it, not something that they had generated.
Yeah, they weren't creating, they were finding.
Which means that there is some logical information out there that exists.
Yeah.
Like you said, logos.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of many things where the way that the biggest things that convince me is when I look at the world, the more you look at the world scientifically, mathematically, the more it says this is not random.
Yeah.
This is ordered. This is designed.
Mm-hmm.
The design element, or as Romans calls it, the invisible hand, can be clearly seen through what is made, whether that's math, whether that's biological systems, whether that's, astronomical phenomenon. You can see this invisible hand.
Mm-hmm.
You look at a galaxy, you look at some of the images I've taken with my little cheater scope, right?
Yeah.
And you look at a galaxy and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's awe-inspiring. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Why? Why isn't it just a collection of dust? It's a boring cloud of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it beautiful?
Because God.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no reason other, and by the way, I'll agree with C.S. Lewis here. He said for waterfalls, but if someone looks at a galaxy and says that is not beautiful, they are wrong.
Yeah.
Not, oh, well, we've all got opinions on things. Like, I hate pickles, which is weird, I know. But, yeah, I'm not Evan about
They're
it.
a little sour. Yeah, I get it.
Very sour. Terrible.
But to deny beauty when it's so obvious
Yes.
is just to be wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are incorrect. And that's kind of, you have your truth and this truth. It's like, no. And when it comes to beauty, well, beauty is not truth. And it's like, wow, you can say that with a straight face. That's a debate of millennia,
Right.
That's pretty bold.
Right.
So yeah, and I believe beauty is in part truth, which is one of the best things they ever named, by the way. There are all these different types of corks.
Okay.
There's the up and the down, which doesn't mean one's facing up and one's facing down. Just had to differentiate them, like plus and minus.
Okay.
But we couldn't use those anymore. And then there's the charm and the strange. Those are kind of cool names.
Yeah.
And then there's the top and the bottom. Those are dumb names. Top and bottom were originally named truth and beauty. And it's like, an amazing naming scheme. And they're like TB, top, bottom, because they're physicists.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so the fact that there's beauty in the world, I know it doesn't sound very scientific, but the fact that there is beauty in the world, the fact that music follows very predictable and measurable notes. You can't just make your own notes.
Yeah.
It won't work. It follows a math.
You got jazz, which is
the blues scale is a scale.
Yeah, it's ordered still.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more chaotic than other.
A little bit, yeah,
but it still
has like a resonance to itself.
Yeah.
It still has a predictability, and you can still put a formalism on there. You can't just say, I'm going to pick this key and this key and this key, and I'm going to tune them differently, and this is my scale now. And it's like, no, that sounds terrible.
Right.
There's some reason for that. Now, some of that reason is the phenomenon of waves itself.
It's interesting you say that because it's so intrinsic in us to desire beauty, and that's why you'll hear a lot of stories of atheists that'll say you came from stardust, that a star exploded millions of years ago, and that dust formed and created you.
Very grandiose.
Yeah, it's like, wow, that's amazing, that's beautiful. It's like, well, they're trying to do like a counterfeit beauty.
Yes.
They're creating almost like a false god.
You were created in the image of something bigger than you and beautiful and lasting, and that pervades through all of time. That's what it's saying, and that's why we're like, it was Carl Sagan. You're made of star stuff.
Yeah.
And using stuff, like, that sounds better than stardust. Stardust sounds way better. Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're saying now, stardust.
Yeah, because star stuff sounds stupid.
Yeah.
But the point of it is to be like, when I look at the heavens, which is what the psalmist says, right?
Yeah.
When I look at the heavens and consider them, how am I made in that? That's amazing. That's what they're doing. They're having awe and reverence.
Right.
And then there's the famous saying that comes along with that is, we are the universe looking back on itself.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is a really crummy shadow of, we are in the image of the Almighty looking back at him. We are the Almighty looking back at himself.
Yeah, we've really substituted a creature for the creator.
Yes.
That's
someone says something about that, right?
Yeah. Romans 1.
Isn't it amazing where it's like, this is why you have things like, have you ever heard of, and I know you've heard of it, have you heard of the term, I don't know if you've heard of the term, the phenomenon you have, directed panspermia?
No.
Never
heard of that.
You know the concept. I know you know the concept. Okay. It's this idea of aliens seeding life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dawkins has talked about that as well.
Yeah, and it's like, so what you're saying is these two major hypotheses, and it's just even being generous, that are going around in atheist circles and have been for decades. One of them is this directed panspermia, which one of the, Watson or Crick, I forget which one of the founders of the discoverers of the double helix structure of the DNA molecule, is big on this.
Okay.
Popularized it. So directed panspermia, what you're saying is that you have some higher transcendent intelligence that at least purposed man and other life to be on the earth. and maybe, depending on whose formulation of the hypothesis, maybe even had a design element in there.
Yeah.
You know, because we have such a crazy biodiversity, which you would not expect if life was happenstance.
Right.
You might expect a couple of species, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but not this insane amount of biodiversity, of not only biodiversity, but balanced biodiversity, right? And beautiful biodiversity. Birds are just, you know, God bless to them.
Yeah.
Birds and fish, and you're like, these
they're
things
beautiful.
are beautiful.
They can fly. They make this beautiful music.
And they do it because they do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is then people, oh, well, it's a mating call. Sure, you said what it is, but one of the things C.S. Lewis used to say was to say migratory birds flock by instinct, is to say we don't know how migratory birds flock, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, oh, well, that's just the nightingale's mating song. Why isn't the nightingale's mating song like a lot of other creatures out there, just like, brah, brah. It's like, well, because the female nightingale finds it beautiful. Why?
Yeah.
And here's even more so, why do we find it beautiful?
Right.
None of us are like, oh, that sounds like a strapping young nightingale. I gotta go say hello.
Yeah.
You're just like, no, this brings me delight.
Yeah.
Look at that beautiful bird and listen to that beautiful sound. Not everything is beautiful. Right. But in order to have the beautiful, you have to have the unbeautiful. Because you have to have that juxtaposition sometimes, right?
Yeah, you gotta be able to compare and
contrast.
Yeah.
So having that beauty, there's no reason to expect beauty otherwise. Why? That doesn't make any sense. To our delight, because God blessed the birds. That's why.
Yeah.
Just is. There's a...
It's great.
Confucius, I think it was Confucius that said this thing where he said the fish were happy as he's walking by a stream, and one of his acolytes was like, how did you know they were happy? And he said, I learned it by the river. And it's like, okay, it's not actually, I don't think it's as deep as they wanted it to be. But there's a truth to it being like, they just look like this is just delightful to watch them. That's really what he's saying, I think, is I am delighted in watching these things.
Right, and we appreciate, like you said earlier, resonance. We appreciate harmony, not discord.
Yep.
We like when things are working together in order. And so when we can see that in the fish swimming in the river, it should bring delight to us. There are things that are just more intrinsically beautiful than others. And I think you're right. God has made this world beautiful. You're out. Yeah,
that might be.
God has made this world beautiful, and He's allowed these things to enter in so that we could more greatly appreciate the things that are truly beautiful.
Yes, and creation is corrupted.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that. I think that...
Yeah, it's only, when Christ returns, it will be more beautiful than it is now.
Certainly won't be less.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. We would talk about our disagreements on baptism, but we both would say it's certainly not less than a sign.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like with beauty, it's the same sort of like some of this beauty, I believe, will absolutely persist.
Right.
But I think it'll be even more. And then who knows what we're missing out on that died in the flood,
Right. Yeah. So many cool creatures.
Oh, yeah. And flavors. There didn't used to be meat eaters. And I don't think God was like, I want you to all be miserable vegetarians, because those people are miserable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Miserable people. And it's miserable to be a vegetarian.
Some long lost spices that taste like meat.
You have some fruit that you're like, bacon is nothing compared to this, I'd have to eat it to believe it. I do not have faith in that. But I do in a sense, because that's the other thing. All right, so...
Because God is good, and He loves to give good gifts.
And He loves us.
Yeah.
Well, my second child was born. So I'll get a little crunchy here. We did no vaccines. We did no vitamin K shots on the second child. We had to on the first child. And I'm not one that's like, oh, vaccines are clearly poison and this and that. It's the data that I looked at, I said, they seem to do as much harm as good. And for me, I will take inaction if that's the case.
Yeah.
Because I will allow the default.
Right.
And some people go the other way, and they look at it and say that if they seem to do as much harm as good, so might as well. I respect that choice. I respect the choice of people who say they're clearly good.
Yeah.
I don't respect the choice of people who say, well, I was told to do this, and you're stupid for not doing what I was told to do.
Right.
All right. On either side.
That's like more trust the science or
exactly.
Trust the conspiracy. Stuff
exactly.
Like that.
Exactly. It's like, it's okay. I mean, don't shame me if you don't know what you're talking about. If you do, shame me. Go ahead. That's fine. And people have. That's fine. So the vitamin K shot, go back to that. Exactly what you're talking about. My wife, my dear wife, had just given birth, and we had decided to deny the vitamin K shot. She's totally on board with all this. and she's getting shamed by these doctors. She has these doctors coming in being like, you're going to kill your kid. And don't you know, it's like their evidence is, don't you know it's sad to have a child die, you know? And it's like, so I had done the research on it. I don't remember the numbers on it, but it was something where there's some STD, I believe, that a mother can have that greatly increases the chance of hemophilia if you don't have vitamin K.
Yeah.
And for everyone else, the odds are vanishingly small. And so I looked at this in a couple of different ways. I looked at also the amount of vitamin K that they put into the child, more than what an adult has by concentration.
Yeah.
And the other thing, this was the big thing that I looked at. Vitamin K seems to be one of the only nutrients that does not go through the umbilical cord to the child. So when I talked to the doctor, so my poor wife is having to feel this because I was getting something somewhere. You know how it is when you have a baby, and I don't know. You do hospital births?
Yeah, we did.
You're one of those weirdos that did like births it in a dirty tub in your house.
No, we did them both at the hospital.
I have nothing against home birth, by the way. It's not our level of comfortability, but you know, it's fine if that's what you do.
Yeah, my wife did them both unmedicated, so that
nice.
That was.
We got the second one though.
Crazy, but
the first one was a whole ordeal, and I won't go into the story, but it was, 36 hours of nonsense. Because you know, you're greatly will I multiply your pains of childbirth. So thanks, Eve. But yeah, so when I talked to the doctor, I said, look, when they're trying to convince me, and so like I'm trying to have a reasoned conversation, which you never do with medical doctors because they don't want to have a reasoned conversation. They just want to tell you why you're stupid.
Yeah.
But I do it anyway because it's fun. So I'm telling them, okay, look, first off, I've seen no long-term studies on endemic diseases versus vitamin K as a youth, like as a baby.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that it's not harmful because those studies haven't been done.
Right.
So first off, you telling me that, I can't listen to that because you have no evidence to back it up. You didn't test it.
Right.
You said something falsifiable. No one tested it. No one reproduced it. That's not science. I can't eschew that. Right. But I said also, look, I believe that the body is designed. I believe that everything around us is designed. And it seems like there is intention to a newborn baby not having vitamin K.
Yeah.
Like, can you show me anything any studies that have been done showing the benefits of not having vitamin K as an infant?
Yeah.
Because to me, that looks purposeful. And then they get the vitamin K in due course, and no, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a mutation. Maybe it's a effect of the fall. Could be. I'm not saying it's not. But I'm saying my default is going to be, this appears to be purposeful, and I know that life is designed.
Right.
Therefore, I must have a very good reason to go against this design element.
Yeah.
And they had nothing, of course, because there is nothing that I know of.
Right.
Which is fine, but they still told me I'm wrong. You know?
Yeah.
But seeing that design in life, you know, seeing that design in the world, I really do believe that the more you study science, the more you see that invisible hand of God.
Yeah.
I had a professor once. Physics classes are kind of funny, especially undergrad classes. It's go, 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 go the whole time. I teach 9:05 to 10 o'clock. That means when the second hand sweeps past 0 for 9:05, I start writing on the board.
Yeah.
And I stop writing on the board when the second hand sweeps past 0 to go to 10 o'clock. And that's a very typical physics class. It's just how it is. So one time in undergrad, one of my favorite professors, Ukrainian professor, he was fantastic. Everyone hated him. He was great. Someone got into it with them about non-overlapping magisterium, this idea that religion and science are two separate things. What is that bug?
It's a jumping spider, I think.
Okay, cool. Sorry, distracted. That's
No worries.
No, it's fine. That's fine.
Okay, good to thank you for pointing that one out. We have to kill that guy.
He is. Well, maybe he's up in you. Who knows? Stay up in the rafters, dude.
Yeah, get up there. Anyway.
So they're talking about this and everything, and then he paraphrased Einstein at some point because a student kept pushing back. He was the second best student in class at that time, and he was pushing back against this and thought that he could because he thought it was pretty hot stuff. And the professor at some point was trying to explain it, and he kept throwing stuff. And at some point, you know, he just stopped and said, "The more I study physics, the more I believe in God."
Nice.
And then launched into his optics discussion. It was never talked about again. But I totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
You know, that I say, like, I used to, like, full disclosure, I had a lot of consternation about things of the Lord because of scientific issues before I delved into anything. Before I learned about creationism was a thing. It was just like, man, I just cannot reconcile what I'm being told by these smart guys and with what I'm reading in the Bible. And I had, if this is the full disclosure part, I had a fear. I had a fear of looking into the science.
Yeah.
Just like people have a fear of textual criticism,
Mm-hmm.
where they say, if I look at the Bible like any old book and do some textual criticism, I'm being faithless.
Right.
And what they're really saying, I think, is I'm afraid of what I might find.
Yeah.
And they are being faithless
Right.
by being afraid of what they might find.
Right.
Because again, you can hold things loosely. You can say, well, there's these studies over here that the Bible show the Bible is wildly inconsistent. It's your choice whether or not you're going to accept that.
Yeah.
You know, but being ignorant of it is not helping you.
Yeah.
So with science, I found that when I started to delve into it, I really honestly was a little bit afraid as I started this journey of physics, that I'm going to find something that just shakes my world and rocks my faith and is a challenge. And now I'm going to have to carry that cross with me for the rest of my life, you know?
Right.
And the exact opposite was true.
Yeah.
You know, the more I studied, the more I saw things, and the more I got ash all over your...
You're good. You're
Is
good.
this an ashtray here or is this?
Go for it. Yeah, dump it in there.
We can dump it
Or
right
on
there.
the table.
We can dump it everywhere. But yeah, the more that I studied and the more that I learned, the less these issues became something that I thought had teeth. Like, it took the teeth out of them.
Right.
Now, this is not to say they're all stupid and everyone who believes in them is stupid. No, there's still things that I'm like, that's compelling.
Yeah.
You know, that exists.
Well, and that's really the thing. We may be afraid of these kinds of questions.
Mm-hmm.
We may be afraid of things that could get us to doubt our faith or cause us to disbelieve in God. But God is not afraid of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
He is true. He does exist. He is who he says he is, and so he welcomes our investigation. I'll take care of it. Don't worry, Matt.
Sorry,
He's
I
not.
spoke this last bit, but please.
Yeah, he's not afraid of our questions. He welcomes our questions. Jonathan Edwards said that asking questions is the key to understanding. And so if you really want to grow your faith, you have to keep delving and keep digging. We can go too far with that. We can have excessive curiosity and be digging further.
Deconstruct.
Yeah, digging further than God has revealed.
Mm-hmm.
But if God has revealed it, we should be seeking it out. And yeah, he's just not scared of our questioning and our searching.
And not putting your faith to the side.
Yeah.
Let's get going again.
Well, we're already at low afternoon, so.
Oh shoot, yeah. All right. Well, this was a story I read a long time ago. There was a man who was a professed Christian, scientist, he's a geologist, I believe, and he looked at petrified forests, and he said, "There's just." To his credit, he took an honest look and said, "The Bible is like I think the Bible is 100% dead clear on creation.
Right.
I do not think this is disputed. I find." All of the theories, like the day-age theory or any of that, completely uncompelling.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's the most inconsistent hermeneutic that you can have to take. It's usually, well, Genesis isn't literal until after Babel. Then it just magically becomes literal, right? Because all these things, and what makes sense to me, and you know, my Momo brain where everything is like, it must be in these lines, right? It's like, well, you're not getting that from the text, so you're getting it from somewhere, and that I have a problem with. So, this guy looked at the text, I remember his name, it's a sad story. He looked at the text and said, this is clear. He looked at petrified trees and said, the science behind how these form is 100% clear.
Yeah.
It takes at least hundreds of thousands of years. So the earth must be at least hundreds of thousands of years old. Therefore, the Bible is wrong, and he abandoned his faith.
Wow.
And it's like, and then what makes it sad is not even long after his death, some creationist scientists showed how you can at least have the possibility of creating petrified forests quickly.
Yeah.
And now, some people go, see, creationists have proven it. No, nothing's been proven. They've just said, again, comports with.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Whereas before it was thought impossible, these guys have shown, well,
exactly.
It's possible.
Now, maybe that's not the mechanism, but at least it's possible.
Yeah.
Adam couldn't have named all the creatures in one day. It's totally possible. You can do the math on that and say, well, under certain auspices, that's, and not like auspices like, well, God made a day stretch 1,000 years. It's nonsense. You know, no, a regular 24-hour day, he could put in an 8-hour shift to name all the animals.
Yeah.
There's you can put some presuppositions in and make that possible. Now, some people will be like, I'm going to die on this hill. That's how he did it. It's like, no, you've shown it's possible.
Yeah.
So now when someone says it's impossible, you can say that is incorrect. It is not impossible. It is possible. Oh, so that's how it was done? I don't know.
That's not my claim.
Exactly.
My claim was just it's
Exactly.
possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was shown that it was possible to make these petrified forests in a short amount of time. So this guy abandons his faith because his faith was in science.
Right.
He said, this is what, and just again, science, the science here, not actual science.
Science with capital S.
Yes, in scientism, as it's called a lot of times now. He abandoned his faith because he said this model that was put onto these petrified forests, it was a model that shows how they could have formed under the auspices of the model, and the math works out to what we see here, and he mistook that for, well, not mistook that, his faith was, that must be true.
Right.
And so when you look into these questions, the thing in the back of your mind that should always be there as a Christian is, I may find evidence that doesn't go along with my understanding even of Christianity. Your understanding could be wrong, right? But we'll never let God be wrong.
Yeah.
Either my understanding of the Bible is wrong, and when I see something violates Romans 1, I'm not seeing the invisible hand here in this creation. Either I'm not understanding the evidence, I'm not understanding the Bible, or both.
Yeah.
It is one of those three.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's the like what I've found is the preservation of faith through hard questions. Go ask the hard question. But when you ask the hard question, understand that you are a limited, finite being, and we live in a limited, finite time.
Right.
You don't have all the information. We see but through a glass darkly, right? That doesn't just mean the righteousness in the Lord, I don't think. I think that pervades to everything.
Right.
You know, the fringes of his handiwork we've seen, Job says. I think that pervades to everything.
Yeah, we just greatly overestimate our own intelligence and our own understanding of the things in front of us. So
people overestimate our intelligence. I've done 2 hours on that one.
Awesome.
Myself included, by the way.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Skipper. I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good having you too.
I'm very glad to be your first guest. It's really fun.
It was great.